Story 1. When they try to outdo everything that is said in a group of people. Story 2. When they say, I am the most honest person you have ever met. It makes me instantly alert. Story 3. Absolutely nonsensical claim followed by, do your own research. Story 4. When they say they were just joking when clearly they were being an asshole. Story 5. Nobody else has a problem with this. No surprise, they have all complained quietly. I am just the one to address it. Story 6. You're not a real person unless you meet certain criteria. Any kind of policing of real status is problematic. Unless you are totally joking, it is always a bad sign. You are not a real man unless. You are not really working hard unless. That is not a real job, and so on. Story 7. Corporate jargon. I swear those morning meetings are just to listen to people talk nonsense and praise themselves. Story 8. If they take astrological signs seriously, I know they enjoy ignoring facts. Story 9. I was not driving, I was traveling, said the sovereign citizen 2 seconds before screaming that they feared for their life. Story 10. When you have to say, I am a nice guy, it probably means you are not a nice guy. Story 11. Anytime someone attributes a personality trait or behavior to an astrological sign. Story 12. I am not racist, but say the racist person. I have a gay friend, say the homophobic person. I have nothing against women, but those types of humans. Story 13. Any kind of battle of the sexes or men versus women generalization, and any use of the term body count, is problematic. In particular, the body count discussion is a troubling combination of prudery, insecurity, and desire for control. It is almost never a conversation initiated for a good reason, and almost never results in anything positive. Story 14. Seed oils are very bad for you, but most people do not know why or what a seed oil is. They claim seed oils cause cancer, dementia, autism, heart disease, and worst of all, inflammation. They also do not understand what inflammation is. Then they recommend a healthy food that contains seeds. Anyone who advertises themselves or their business with the word wellness is not always dishonest. But it is definitely a warning sign for me. This detox tea, vitamin, food, lymphatic drainage massage, or exercise I am selling will flush toxins from your body. Thank you, but my liver already performs that function, so I am fine. Story 15. I would not lie to you. If you feel the need to emphasize that you are not a liar, then you are probably lying. Story 16. Anytime someone uses the word woke in a sentence seriously. Story 17. People who use the word objectively when talking about art. Story 18. When I was in 9th grade, a boy in my class was being way too close and was always flirting with me. When I asked him to stop, he would touch my thigh and become a little aggressive. By the way, I was wearing one of those oversized t-shirts that would fall a bit off the shoulder so you could see my bra straps. When I told the teacher, all she said was, "With that outfit, you're asking for it." As if I was the problem all along. If this ever happens, you are absolutely not the problem. What you decide to wear should be your decision, and if someone is violating your boundaries, tell someone who will actually do something. Or punch them in the face like I did. I got suspended for 3 days, but it was worth it. There was another time when I was on a date with a guy who had a lot of red flags, to be honest. At the end of the night, he wanted me to come back to his place and, when I denied, he got really angry and started dragging me to his car. Luckily, another girl was there and helped me get away from him. When I got home, I was sobbing so hard and told my dad's girlfriend everything. And what she said was, "Well, boys will be boys." As if that was some kind of excuse for a guy to treat me badly. Story 19. When someone who is clearly stealing from a store says anything about theft being bad or acts strange when they see merchandise locked up. Story 20. The tendency to one-up every story you hear with your own. Story 21. Calling explanations of why you or other people are struggling excuses is unfair. Sure, let me just work really hard past all these systemic barriers and my body failing. Truly, those are not excuses, and it is not my fault that I am poor and cannot make enough money to live. Story 22. When they say, "Trust me, I know what I am talking about. I do not mean to brag, but it is not about the money. Story 23. It is common sense. Usually, people with limited social exposure and complete disinterest in science say this to explain complex concepts. Story 24. Trust me. If you are asking for trust, it means you are untrustworthy. Story 25. Let us agree to disagree. What a complete nonsense. Let us get along to go along statement. Story 26. Well, my relative is a professional, so I know what I am talking about. I am sure your relative knows, but that does not mean anything about what you know. Story 27. When he says, I have done my research on this topic. When he just became interested a week ago. Story 28. When they say they have to defecate, they are usually not telling the truth. Story 29. I am an empath. Everyone does it, which reflects projection and lack of accountability. I have a high intelligence quotient. It is my life. I can do whatever I want, regardless of consequences and the impact on people around me. Trying to portray yourself as a master manipulator or psychopathic, as if bragging about being cold and calculating. Story 30. Not a specific phrase, but when someone has an answer for everything. Always be very wary of a person who never says the words, I don't know. Story 31. Have you read the Bible? No matter which side you are on, you know you are in for a ride. Story 32. Believe me. Similarly, with words rather than phrases. Honestly, said no honest person ever. Truly. Story 33. Anyone who mentions an intelligence quotient number in conversation. Story 34. I am an introverted, intuitive, feeling, judging personality type or whatever personality type. Avoid trusting anyone who claims their supposed intelligence quotient. Story 35. Someone who says, now I am going to tell you the truth, or just to be honest with you, or anyone who overuses the word very. Story 36. I once had a person bragging to me about how fast his built Subaru WRX was. Then he mentioned the titanium pistons. Yeah, okay, you are extremely foolish. Story 37. I have all the answers or only I can fix it. Ha, yeah, okay, you are a fraud and con artist for sure. Story 38. I am just asking questions here. Or do your own research, people. Story 39. I need to use the toilet with wide, desperate eyes and a clenched buttocks. Story 40. If someone consistently claims that you are lying about something, especially if it is something completely inconsequential that you would have no reason to lie about, that person is a compulsive liar and does it all the time. Story 41. Not a phrase, but when you call someone out for being ignorant and rude, and their reaction is to send a laughing emoji, then try to explain why their behavior is justified. Story 42. Racist, sexist, homophobic, transphobic. You are not addressing the issue, you are attacking the person. Story 43. Tithing to my church will ensure your place in heaven. Story 44. Oh, you are autistic? I had no idea. What exactly do you think I am supposed to do as an autistic person? Be as stereotypical as possible? Also, well, you do not look disabled. Tell that to all the dislocated bones in my feet, Karen. Story 45. Anytime they say their thoughts and prayers are with someone struggling. Story 46. I'll be honest. Like everything else, what they say is a lie. Story 47. Anytime Donald Trump says, nobody knew that, it translates to, I didn't know that. Story 48. Any claim to religiousness. Growing up in the South, the first thing I learned was never trust anybody who says, I am a good Christian. I walked out of 3 dealerships the first time I bought a car because the salespeople said, you can trust me, I am a God-fearing Christian, or some variation of that. Story 49. Tough love. No, you just want a hall pass to ease your conscience. This phrase did not exist before the baby boomer generation. Story 50. Get ready for a stream of continuous talking. Story 51. Some people make easily disprovable claims that transgender individuals commit most mass shootings in an attempt to discredit them. Story 52. In all honesty, I don't think this is something I could sum up with just a certain phrase. There is context to consider, the inflection in the voice, mannerisms, and nuances. All of those things come into play. For example, whenever someone tells me, "I'm on my way," I've already left. If this was coming from someone who is habitually late to everything, I would know they are not truthful. If it was coming from someone who is always early and very prompt, I would probably believe it. For me, it really comes down to the person and the situation. I have a friend whom I can always tell is not being 100% truthful. It is something about the way he looks. It is his subtleties that give it away more than what he actually says. Or, for example, lying to someone. There are little white lies that just help things run smoother. Nobody is really affected. Then there are outright lies. Do you see what I mean? It is all very situational. Story 53. Any generalizations or broad statements that lack personal experience or supporting data contribute to the emergence of classism and racism. Story 54. It is universally known. My friends and I think this way, so everyone in the world must think the same. I dislike generalizing because there are many factors involved. Story 55. When they cannot use the English language properly, regardless of what I may think. Story 56. Thank you for your attention to this matter. Story 57. Anyone who uses the term alpha as an adjective is mistaken. Some people are stronger at some things than others. It does not make you an alpha. I really hate the term alpha. Story 58. Who gave you permission? Who gave the order? Who told you to do that? Power-seeking individuals who believe everyone on Earth has to answer to them. Story 59. Any combination of recent headlines and current trendy cliches or buzzwords. For example, I experiment with video game design as a hobby sometimes. If I meet someone and they start talking about topics like dopamine centers, I know they understand less about game design than I do. One of the worst things about Reddit right now is that people who speak in headlines, cliches, and buzzwords have an iron grip on almost every subreddit. They have been influenced by artificial intelligence-supported, revenue-generating, clickbait-driven, professional wrestling style, fantasy politics pseudo-reality. Story 60. I am not like everybody else. I put my life on that, or my children, or my mother. Would I lie? You can trust me. I would not do that, ever. Story 61. When they say that they are just being honest with you after verbally attacking you harshly. Story 62. When meeting someone for the first time, some people drop the names of individuals who are important to them to seem important themselves. For the most part, I do not care who you know. Story 63. Anything that follows honestly, or I'm not going to lie. Story 64. When a man starts a sentence with a man like me, my usual comment is, what a wanker? Story 65. I psychoanalyze them as some random teenager, or I know I am an empath, or deep conversations, or anything along those lines. Story 66. Most people, my ass, you're talking about yourself. Story 67. The whole phrase, I am not racist, homophobic, transphobic, misogynistic, but implies that you are indeed exhibiting those behaviors. Story 68. Can I be honest with you? Hold up. Were you not being honest with me already? Story 69. I'm a good Christian man. I'm guilty of it too. I hear it from other people and it makes me cringe. In the past, I've caught myself saying it and immediately corrected myself. Story 70. If someone says believe me, you probably should not believe them. Story 71. As a teacher, we have a new initiative. There is always someone creating a curriculum vitae building initiative that requires professional development but ultimately gets abandoned within a year when that person leaves or when the next curriculum vitae builder introduces a new initiative. Story 72. When they throw out random numbers or percentages in a discussion. Story 73. People tell me. They say, sir, with tears in their eyes. Story 74. Claiming a false stereotype is true followed by, I know certain people in a specific country who work in a particular field, so I know it's true. Anyone who says this either does not actually work in that field or country, or has never even set foot there. Story 75. If you do not believe me, just go and see. I actually heard this while on a submarine somewhere in the Pacific Ocean. Story 76. Anything involving disrespect should only be used by pretend tough guys in their 20s. Story 77. I have fill in the blank medical condition and use it to excuse being a complete tool. Story 78. Is there a plunger and more than one roll of toilet paper in your bathroom? Story 79. I am not bragging when I say I am the best at something, especially if it is numerology or astrology. Story 80. Believe what you want. You just have to trust me. Yeah, okay. Story 81. Not in love with people who start their sentences with, let me be clear, or, I am just curious. Story 82. Men who tell me 34-year-old female that I do, in fact, want children. Story 83. I just soiled my pants, or if they say their favorite artist is The Weeknd. Story 84. They say, yes, we all know you are making that up. Story 85. I never lie, and also I tell it like it is. That implies you lie more than everyone else and that you are also an unpleasant person. Story 86. Everything is political. Donald Trump is often compared to Adolf Hitler. Some people refer to Republicans as Nazis. There are claims that Donald Trump's assassination attempt was staged. Story 87. I am an empath, the most self-absorbed person you will ever meet. Story 88. At least I am not fake like everyone else. It usually means that they consider politeness to be dishonesty because they are unpleasant. Story 89. As an empath, what are you trying to prove by saying that? Red flag for sure. Story 90. A long paragraph on Reddit about how unintelligent other people are. Story 91. People with no money and no valid claim are threatening to sue everyone and everything. Story 92. Nobody asked to be born. Technically, yes, this is true in the sense that none of us recall ever signing up to become human. However, I think it is because I genuinely believe there is a meaning to life that this kind of statement always seemed to irk me and make me believe the person has no hope at all in their life. It is basically saying, we exist because we can, so why should we make our life important and valuable? Story 93. Remember when the world made sense? No, because it never did. You just got accustomed to a certain set of circumstances that made zero sense at the time. Now you are in a new set of circumstances that make no sense, and you do not want to adapt because it might mean you lose some of the advantages you currently enjoy. It has always been chaos. Adapt or die. Story 94. When they use the word woke for anything other than referring to waking up, it is clear they do not understand its true meaning. You should not give such people any more of your attention. Story 95. Well, everything in moderation. When people say this, whether they are talking about food, alcohol, or drugs, it seems to me to be the most obvious sign of someone who is trying to justify their own behavior in order to resist making the changes they need to achieve the results they are complaining they do not have. Usually, whatever the topic they are discussing, they are not moderating it at all. Story 96. Any management jargon such as circle back, low-hanging fruit, or in the weeds is unhelpful. Using these phrases does not indicate intelligence. Story 97. Anyone in kink who says, I have no limits, is usually boasting about what they cannot handle. If they said, I am exploring my limits, I would be more accepting. However, I'm not someone who teaches you about your body, so you would need to find someone else. Claims of having no limits often come with other false statements, such as being experienced, having done a lot, or being great in bed. That bothers me because I know that even if we engaged in ordinary activities, I would get bored. Story 98. I know more about insert topic here than anybody. Story 99. I have reviewed all the data. No, you simply watched Tucker Carlson and became emotional. Story 100. In my experience, this reflects the limited views of someone who has never traveled. Story 101. I am a conservative. Or like, I am Christian. Those transgender people are against my religion. Basically, these are ways to instantly tell me you have no brain cells. Story 102. I earned a degree from the School of Life and the School of Hard Knocks. I also have a Bachelor of Science and a master's degree from 2 accredited universities. Story 103. When Donald Trump relays a story and says someone called him, sir, he is lying. Story 104. Our thoughts and prayers are with the families at this difficult time. Story 105. I researched it. No, you just looked at articles on the internet. I met someone once who told me that any articles on the public medical literature database were not good resources. And ever since then, I have been doubtful of arguing with anyone who said they did their research. Story 106. There are obvious keywords people who are dishonest say. Right-wing examples include terms like woke, plandemic, or the COVID-19 vaccine. They also use diversity, equity, and inclusion as a derogatory description of people who are not white men. Left-wing examples include starseed, indigo child, or claims regarding signs, fairies, or readings that say strangers are out to get them, or you. Sovereign citizen talking points include statements like, I am not driving, I am traveling, this is not a motor vehicle, it is my conveyance, and I am the representative of the living man. Incel slang includes red pill, black pill, foid, and looksmacks. Listing all the categories alone would take time. Many people are dishonest. Story 107. Common sense. There is no such thing. It is a way to imply something is self-evident or intuitive without actually demonstrating it to be so. But it is usually used when someone cannot be bothered to give you a real justification for something. If you cannot explain it to me, I do not believe you know what you are talking about when you say it is sensible. You have to articulate why it makes sense to you. Story 108. I saw and heard on Fox News that the problem is they believe whatever is said is true. Story 109. Any normal person says that President Donald Trump. Story 110. Hello, my name is Donald J. Trump, your favorite president. Story 111. I thought you were gay because of us. After I tell them, no, I am indeed. But in real life, I am still in the closet, so they just guess randomly based on irrelevant things. If you assume someone's sexual orientation based on a random guess, I wouldn't call it homophobia, but the line is very thin. Story 112. Speaking of multi-level marketing, have I told you about my new business? Story 113. Anyone who couches their opinions with, you have to understand. No, sir, I do not. Story 114. When an impossible-to-know piece of information is revealed to a group and someone exclaims, I knew it. Story 115. I am not, fill in the blank. But anytime the conversation starts with this line, you can be sure that the person saying it is, in fact, fill in the blank. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.